Another great weekend of racing is in the books, as we've had another tight finish in the NASCAR circuit. Las Vegas done and said for. This is the front stretch presented by Joe's Karting. Joe'sKarting.com. That's karting with a K, is where you can get all the great information. You can also call Bud and book your outing or special event at 256-5278, located right there in Council Bluffs. Get to Joe's. Get yourself some white-knuckle, fast-paced racing. Guys, welcome back for another week of the front stretch. Buddy Ray, thanks again for joining us.
Oh, we're back as usual, and we're going to break down what's going on this week in racing, and we'll just see where it goes from there.
Andrew Kaczynski, as always, good to have you in studio, helping me kind of gang up against Bud.
I'll tell you what, I have a blast in here talking to you, Dan. Bud, I don't know so much about, but I like talking to him too.
Well, like I said, we had another great weekend of racing at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Turn 2, we're going to break it down a little bit. What happened, who had a bad weekend, who had a good weekend. And then also in Turn 3, we're going to talk to Kenny Hansen, who is the new race director for Shelby County Speedway. Make sure you listen to that, as you're going to be able to get some great information on rates, prices, specials, and stuff like that, and what kind of changes they've done at Shelby County Speedway in the offseason. Turn 4, we're going to throw it over to Andrew for the infield reporter. Andrew's going to talk about the release of the Dodge Charger for 2013 and give us kind of a little bit about how that's going over, and how that's going to affect Dodge in the 2013 season. Right now, let's talk a little bit about how the season's going so far for NASCAR. I know we are only 3 weeks into the season, and it's a little bit difficult, but I think we could take a little look at the iceberg and see what's underneath the water a little bit. We'll start with the top 5 drivers in the series. Greg Biffle leading by 10 points over Kevin Harvick. Guys, what do you think how do you think he's going to end up the rest of the season?
If he can keep up the current run that he's going, the nice thing, he's got 3 top 10s, 3 top 5s. He doesn't have a win or a pole yet, but what that is showing me is that he's staying consistent. And you can win all the races in the world, but if you was to win, say, 11 races, but you finish down there outside of the top 20 in the next 20 races, you're not going to be a factor anywhere. So as long as he keeps up that momentum and keeps up that consistency, I think he'll have the staying power to make the chase. I think he's already going to be in the chase anyways, but I think he can make a forego of it, and he'll be all right.
Greg Biffle, to me, he's kind of doing what Carl Edwards did last year, his teammate. He's more in there to run good, finish every single race, just like Bud said, staying consistent. He's fast, but then again, he's just about a 4th or 5th place car, but there's nothing wrong with that. Like I said, Carl Edwards almost got the job done last year if he'd just had a couple more wins like Tony did.
Just one more win. It's crazy to think when you go back and look at the 2011 season and you think of all the races, if Carl would have finished one position better in the last 10 races, I guess you could say, in the last 10 races, just one position better, he would have won the series. So Greg Biffle and these guys understand that. I like Biff. I think he's a great driver. My biggest concern about him is, Bud, you mentioned it, that if he can stay on this run, he's got a really good chance at winning the series. But my biggest problem with Greg Biffle is he has a tendency to disappear for a while. And I don't think he has that kind of mental capacity that when the stuff hits the fan and it comes down to it's just really stressful times, I'm not entirely sure he's able to handle that kind of stuff, and I think that's why he disappears every once in a while and has these 25th place finishes.
The one thing I've noticed even this week with the race in Vegas, and I don't know if you noticed this, Andrew, is Biffle just seems so much more relaxed this year. He's not really double thinking things. He's not second-guessing things. He just seems so much more relaxed, so much more confident with what he's doing. And I think this run of consistency so far is really helping to concrete him in that way of thinking. So I think he's got a great shot, and he's definitely improved as a driver overall this year so far. I know we're only 3 weeks into it, so we'll see what happens.
But you can get a pretty good idea. If you survive Daytona and you have great finishes, obviously he's finished in the top 5 all 3 races, that's incredibly difficult to do.
Oh, absolutely.
To do that 3 races in a row is incredibly difficult to do.
I think what we're going to see today, though, with today being Bristol, he's now raced on 4 of the different types of tracks that NASCAR's been on. And if he has a good run today at Bristol Motor Speedway, then I think we're going to see the writing on the wall, and he's going to be a man to watch for
Definitely.
Sure.
What about where did he come from, Harvick? How is he doing this season? What do you guys think?
He's got a head of steam on his shoulders right now, and I like Kevin Harvick because he's got that kind of – he's driving kind of like Kyle Busch did right now. He wants to win every single week. And I think that's what's going to keep him in the top 5 this season. He might be tough by the end of the year. You never know about Harvick.
That guy is the epitome of consistency. He should have won himself a couple of championships by now. He has been in the top 5 for the last 3-4 seasons by the season end. The only issue he's had is that damn pesky guy Jimmie Johnson, who just seems to be able to get just a little bit better finish than him.
Right. The one thing, it's not that I'm not a Harvick fan or I am a Harvick fan, but this whole, nickname, where'd you come from, Harvick, I don't really watch him a whole lot, and I'm sitting here looking at the points going, wow, he's actually second in points, and I'm like, even in the standings, where did you come from? So it's really neat to see a guy like this. The nice thing I'm seeing here is you don't have the Tony Stewart or the Jimmie Johnson or the Carl Edwards up front. You're watching these other guys who've been mid-pack runners in the chase actually leading, and it's actually refreshing to see somebody new up here in these top five.
Yeah, it gets a little bit redundant. As incredibly talented as Jimmie Johnson is, it gets a little bit irritating to see him winning everything.
Oh, absolutely.
Denny Hamlin. I love Denny. He's a great driver. I love Denny's attitude. It seems like getting Darian Grubb over on top of that pit box has just completely changed his attitude. He had a tough time last season. Listen, he had just a down season. It was a bad season. And the tough thing is, I don't think he has enough experience to be able to overcome that, much like I talked about with Greg Biffle. He's now got Darian Grubb on the box to coach him through this, have that calming effect. I think this guy's going to be in the chase. I think he's a lock. I think he's a top 5.
Okay, Andrew, my question for you. With Denny Hamlin being third in points, is it Denny Hamlin putting Denny Hamlin third in points, or is it Darian Grubb putting Denny Hamlin third in points?
I'd probably say it's more Grubb putting him in there than anything. I think Denny obviously is driving hard this year. After last year's season, he has to. He saw it. I bet you halfway through last year, he goes, I'm done with this year. I'm testing for next year. I think he's going to be in trouble, though, here pretty soon if they don't figure it out a little better. This week, they didn't do very promising at all like they did the week before, and I hope they don't do that a couple weeks in a row because it's going to be just like last year. But I think with Grubb there, them two are going to be a tough package.
If you remember back on the first week here on the front stretch on Omaha's ESPN Radio 590 AM, I mentioned with Darian Grubb coming to Denny Hamlin's team that leadership was going to point Hamlin in the right direction, and that guidance there. Now, it does make me wonder if Tony Stewart is kind of kicking himself in the butt a little bit. I mean, the results have spoken for themselves. I mean, we're less than 4 races, up until today, we're less than 4 races technically into the season, and here's Hamlin with his first win already.
Well, and now Tony's tied him. I mean,
and Tony's tied him. Each one of those drivers have really set a benchmark coming out of the chute gate with the new crew chief.
Yeah.
This is not a knock against Tony by no means, but I think, and I agree with Andrew, I think with Darian Grubb being up on that pit box, I think it's that leadership that has also put Hamlin in that third place in the points. Like Andrew said, Hamlin is driving harder, but I think it's because of Grubb. He's got
to listen. You guys can attest to it. When you don't have any confidence in the car, you're not tentative. You're not making the decision to put that to dive into that corner. You're not putting the car in places it needs to be. You're scared. You don't have that confidence. You're not driving at your full capability. And I think Darian Grubb has walked in there and given Hamlin the confidence that he had sucked out of him after last season. And I think we're going to see a 2010 season out of Denny Hamlin.
I agree with you. I think Hamlin's a lock for sure for the chase.
Not sure if you've heard about this guy. He's got a little bit of a history in NASCAR. Dale Earnhardt Jr. sitting 4th in the points. He's only 18 points behind Biffle. This is a story that I think all of us have been waiting for a long time, is Dale Earnhardt Jr. to have a good season. Had a great race at Las Vegas. Didn't win the race. May not have... he didn't finish in the top 10, but he didn't finish in the top 5. He finished 10th in the points, which is the kind of stuff Dale needs to do. For me, I'm not ready to say he's going to have a good season because even though this isn't the season he's had for the last couple, he's been kind of irrelevant for the last 2 or 3 seasons. Since he's got to Hendrick, he hasn't really had the season, he hasn't put together the season that everyone wants him to. So because of that, I'm not ready to say he's gonna even make the chase. I want to see him after 10 races, and then I'll make a decision.
I think it is nice to see Earnhardt up here, 4th in points, 18 points behind Greg Biffle. But with me, I think, he's been so down the last few years running, and he's been up and down, up and down. There's really no string of consistency. And right here, he's got 2 top 10s, 1 top 5. There's a little bit of consistency. And I think he is smart enough to understand that if he keeps his nose to the grindstone and really does his homework and listens to his crew chief, he could be there. Now, I think if we see Earnhardt fall from grace out of the top 10, I don't think it's going to be his team's fault. I think it's going to be his fault. If he just pays attention to what he's doing, this could very well be a chase contender right here. So, but it's solely up to Earnhardt. The destiny is in his own hands. He's in the control of his own fate.
I think this is another case of Denny Hamlin where the crew chief has injected a little bit of confidence and has started to really turn that team around.
The one thing that I worry about Earnhardt, it's no secret he's NASCAR's top-selling merchandiser with the Earnhardt name and him himself. But when you are marketed so heavily and you're with all the pressures that go along with that, with signings and appearances and all that, how many appearances and signings does Dale do compared to somebody like, Biff or Harvick or Hamlin? These guys have a little bit more time. They're all busy in their own right, but these guys have a little bit more time to focus solely on their driving and what they need to do, whereas Earnhardt's trying to juggle all this. What do you think about that, Andrew?
I totally agree with that. He definitely has more pressure on him than everybody else. I think, to me, Dale Jr. is not going to finish, again, good, just like every other year. He always runs good at Daytona, so he's up in the points right now, 3 races into it. Junior has this problem that he only runs the top side of the racetrack. Most races are one running around that bottom by the apron, and they even said this week, I think it was Waltrip said, look at Junior down there. He's even trying to go to the bottom when he was out there leading the race, and I forgot who the heck it was catching up to get him. But, for some reason, they can't get it done at the end of the race. He's fast early. He looks good early, and I seriously thought he was going to win Vegas. Then it's like, well, where did he go again? And I just think they're going to struggle and struggle and struggle. I think he's happy to be at the racetrack, and he knows he's got a ride. He will never, ever be fired.
This is The Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio. We're talking about the initial impressions of the season, breaking down the top 5. So far, Greg Biffle leading in the points, Kevin Harvick second, Denny Hamlin back in third, Earnhardt Jr. sitting in fourth. Now fifth, we've got the Daytona 500 winner, Matt Kenseth. He had a great Daytona 500, but is he going to have a good season?
Me personally, I like Kenseth, and, Vegas was unfortunate. Kenseth had a fast car. He had a real good car at Vegas, I thought, and I thought he had a shot at catching Stewart. That would have been hard, but I thought he had a shot, and, when the Roush cars went that 3 wide and they got bobbled up, that was a racing incident. I think that took a little steam out of their sail, but I don't think it's going to hurt him too bad. But if he can keep it up, he's looking pretty good too. 1 top 10, 1 top 5, 1 win. He'll be there. If he is in the chase, I don't think he'll be top 5. He'll be 6th through 10th in the chase.
Yeah.
I think he's going to fall off again just like he does every other year. He seems to be great at Daytona just like Dale Jr. We got guys. Tony Stewart's going to sneak up there. Gordon's going to sneak up there. Jimmie Johnson's going to sneak up there. You still got all them guys. Kyle Busch hasn't showed anything yet. They're still all going to show up there, and Kenseth's going to be about 10th to 12th again.
Buddy, give me your driver that isn't in the top 5 that you think is going to have a great season.
A lot of people know that I really like to follow Tony Stewart. He had that issue with Phoenix with the car starting. I think had that car not had that problem, we would have saw him in the top 3. I think the one guy to really watch this year, as much as I hate to say it, is Carl Edwards. Carl Edwards runs fast. He runs hard. He's made a couple bobbles here and there. Nothing to write home about. The season is extremely young yet. It's extremely early. I think if Carl and Tony keep doing what they're doing, I think they're going to be right there.
He's not my favorite racer, but he's going to probably win the championship again. Jimmie Johnson. He's the guy to watch the whole rest of the season.
As much as everyone kind of is tired of seeing him win championships, you don't win a championship based on having a great crew chief or a great team. It's a trifecta. You've got to have everything. And listen, the guy is a great race car driver. There is no arguing about that. He is one of the best out there.
There's one driver I do want to mention here on the front stretch. And Andrew, I know you're probably not the biggest fan of him, but Brad Keselowski. I think he's looking good this year. As early as it is, and I know it's only 3 races, I'm thinking he's looking good.
He's only got 1 top 5, but okay.
I think the driver I'm going to go with this season, it's kind of tough. There's so many good drivers out
You
there
got
now.
Truex up there, Dan.
Yeah.
Joey Logano.
Listen, I'm not a big fan of Michael Waltrip Racing. You and I have argued about this till we're blue in the face. I think NASCAR has become a sport where you got to be at the top 4 teams in order to have a really good shot at winning a championship. I'm going to hitch my wagon as a non-top 5 driver. I'm going to go with Kyle Busch. That guy, when he gets his stuff straight, and listen, I'm not saying he's had a bad 3 races. I have the utmost respect for that guy and what he can do in a NASCAR. As soon as he gets his head straight, he's going to win a championship. I think he's going to be in the chase again this year. I don't think he'll be top 5 because, once again, when you get into the chase, the stress, the pressure, the interviews, everything you've got to do is amped up tenfold, and I don't think he can handle it quite yet. But in a few years, once he kind of gets to be a little bit more mature, I think he's going to have a great season. But let me ask you, how do you think Kurt Busch is going to do?
He'll be fine.
In case
it's 3 races. You know what? If I remember right, today's Bristol Motor Speedway.
Yeah.
He has won Bristol a couple times in the past.
If I remember right, it was Daytona 500, and he was great at Daytona. And then if I remember right, it was Phoenix, and he was great at Phoenix. And if I remember right, it was Las Vegas. And no, he's great at Las Vegas. In case some of you have missed it, Bud and I, in week 2, have begun a little bit of a bet. Bud is certain that Kurt Busch is going to finish in the chase, top 12. He will make the chase, and he will finish in the chase. I don't think he will. I think he's a great driver, but I just think, again, like I just said, Phoenix Racing just does not have the resources and the team to be able to assist him in getting into the chase. So the wager has been whoever loses the bet has to wear a pink tutu and race around Joe's Karting in the electronic tubs that you've got that go about half a mile an hour.
They go faster than you walk, Dan.
I got a bad knee. Watch it. The tub races are basically for the kids that come there and want to do some racing. And they're great for the kids because they're not dangerous, and it's in a bathtub, so it's kind of funny. You're going to either see Buddy Ray or Dan Taylor jump into one of those things. I don't think he's going to finish in the chase. If he does, you're going to see me wearing a pink tutu. If Bud's wrong, then, oh, man, I'm telling you, he's going to be wearing a pink tutu, and I am going to get plenty of pictures to post on the Front Stretch Facebook page. So make sure you're a fan of the Facebook page, the Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting, so that you can see all those pictures. To give you a little bit of an update, hang on, let me scroll down the screen to find Kurt. Hang on, got to keep scrolling. Oh, there he is. He's 29th. And let me just tell you, I'm not taking any pleasure in Kurt Busch being in 29th. I'm taking pleasure in, I'm going to see Buddy wearing a pink tutu in just about 20 short weeks. So make sure you guys stay tuned to that. This is a Front Stretch presented by Joe's Karting. We'll be right back with Turn 2 as we're going to break down Las Vegas Motor Speedway. We're going to talk a little bit about Bristol Motor Speedway and what we're going to expect today. This is the Front Stretch presented by Joe's Karting on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.